Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Very good evening. We continue with our topic on the industrial policies of developed countries, especially United States. We have here section 301, protection against unfair trading practices. Section 301, or better known as Super 301. You're going to know why. I'm going to tell you later. Section 301 of Trade Act of 1974 empowers United States trade representative to respond to unfair trading practices by foreign nations when foreign trade restrictions hindering U.S. exports and when foreign subsidies hindering U.S. export to the country. So United States trade representatives can impose tariff or import restriction on products and services or deny foreign country trade agreement concessions. So it is known as Super 301, Super 301, because USTR, United States, can take action onto foreign country with this act to impose tariff and import restriction on another country when they have this. Okay, next. Intellectual property right, I'm not going to go into detail. Copyrights, trademark, patents, and this is the list table of intellectual property rights violation in China according to this book. Trade adjustment, next is trade adjustment assistance. The rationale is that if society enjoys welfare gains, we've learned in our previous class, trade liberalization will increase consumer surplus. So if society enjoys welfare gain from increased efficiency, from trade liberalization, some sort of compensation should be provided for those who are injured by import competition. But is trade adjustment assistance necessary? The answer is that it may not be necessary because despite the appeal of trade adjustment assistance, the effectiveness of this program has been subject of widespread debate. One is concerned about whether the special program for trade-related job losses should exist. Are jobs displacement because of foreign competition from import any different from job displacement because of other competition or domestic competition? So they argue on that. So also critics argue that job training programs are not effective. Even though they are effective, workers are not going to move to new areas because of ties with the community and family. They stay back where they are. So it's not necessary. Next. Industrial policy in the United States. Basically, the United States shun away from having a dedicated or stated industrial policy, except the closest to that is the Export and Import Bank, Exim Bank. So this is independent agency of the United States government that guarantees working capital loans for U.S. exporters, credit insurance that protects U.S. exporters, and commercial loans at lower interest rate than the market interest rate to credit-worthy foreign buyers of United States goods and services in order for the United States to be able to compete with other countries, to sell the product and services to other countries. So the government is giving the loan guarantee. For example, we're going to see here the case of the cases here. We're going to see in the diagram here economic effects of loan guarantee. This is an example of loan guarantee by the Exim Bank. Guarantee the loan to Japan Airlines. So this Bank of America, Japan Airlines is getting the loan from Bank of America but being guaranteed by Exim Bank. You understand? Japan Airlines gets the loan from Bank of America and being guaranteed up to 85% by Exim Bank, meaning that if Japan Airlines cannot pay the loan, cannot repay the loan, Exim Bank will bear the cost of that 80% of the loan. So, meaning that the country is taking the risk. So, with a loan guarantee, Japan Airlines gets a loan on better terms than it could in the fiber market. However, American taxpayers bear the risk that the loan will not be repaid. Also, the United States economy is made poorer because scarce resources are redirected from higher valued users toward lower valued users. So, let's look at this. This is the quantity of loanable funds, millions, and this is the cost of the loan, interest rate. This is the supply without the subsidy, without the loan guarantee. And this is the demand for the loan by Japan Airlines. So, market equilibrium without the subsidy, without the loan guarantee would be at this point A. So, because of higher interest rate, 6%, so the amount of loan borrowed by Japan Airlines is only 20 million. But with loan guarantee by Exim Bank, why? The United States wants to make sure that Boeing, this is case, Japan Airlines is buying Boeing airplane made by America to compete with Airbus. So, in order to help Boeing, an American company, to be able to sell airplane to Japan Airlines, so Exim Bank give the guarantee, loan guarantee up to 85%. So because of that guarantee, Bank of America, that's giving the loan to Japan Airlines, Bank of America can give the loan at a cheaper rate, at 4% rather than 6%. As a result, Japan Airlines takes a much bigger loan, which is $30 million of loan. As a result, that induces Japan Airlines to buy the airplane from Boeing rather than the other competitors. So this is the effect. So the effect, let me read again, is that the US economy is made poorer because of scarce resources are redirected to redirected from higher valued users toward lower valued users. And this is another one is that because the loan, the Exim Bank gets some of the money, the fund from the taxpayers. So it's sort of like taxpayers is funding for Japan Airlines. So that's the impact. So it looks nice, but there are costs to the society. I mean, the loan guarantee looks nice, appear to be nice, but there's cost to society. Yeah, the same thing that I've just described. Okay, and then because here's a story here. US Airlines and Boeing spar, argue with each other over export and import bank credit. In 2014, US Airlines, especially Delta, opposed cheap credit from Exim Bank to foreign countries, to Japan Airlines and companies. Credit extended at below market rates puts US airline industry at a cost disadvantage. Why US Airline? Because Japan Airline buys Boeing or bought Boeing airplane at cheaper cost of financing because of lower interest rate. So that puts Delta using the same airline Boeing into disadvantage because Japan Airline can cut costs. You understand? Can cut costs because they can. Japan Airline could buy the airplane with a lower cost of financing. So that puts Delta at a disadvantage vis-a-vis Japan Airlines. So Delta or US Airline and Boeing sparring with each other, arguing with each other over the Export-Import Bank credit. So Delta export credit helps Boeing, but, should change this, but negatively affects US airline industry, as I explained. On the other hand, Boeing says curtailing export credit to Japan Airline would jeopardize US aerospace competitiveness. So the argument. Next is a case of US solar industry dims as China's industrial policy lights up. Bankruptcy of 3 American solar power companies leaves China in dominant position because China is cheaper, the cost is cheaper. The more costly in America, the 3 companies went bankrupt. Chinese government's effective industrial policy subsidizes production of solar panels. And during that time, there was the euphoria. No, I shouldn't say euphoria. People are talking about climate change. And we better use alternative energy rather than from fuel. So a lot of investors put money into solar power generating companies. So there is a glut of supply, too much supply of solar panel, with weak demand depresses prices and profit in the United States. So in 2010, President Obama visited Solyndra Incorporated as it defaulted on government guaranteed loan. It was seen as a symbol of failed industrial policy. Next. Carrier Incorporated agrees to keep jobs in Indiana. In December 2016, another case, President Trump convinced Carrier to keep 1,000 jobs in Indiana rather than going to Mexico. In exchange, Carrier would get a $7 million tax break for 10 years. And what happened? Is it a good policy from the standpoint of business? Because Carrier can produce much cheaper furnace in Mexico with labor cost of, on average, is $11 per day. $11 per day in Mexico, compared with $30 per hour. You follow me? $11 a day in Mexico, labor cost. In Indiana, $30 an hour. So, in the end, it is not a good business proposal. US won't become more prosperous by forcing businesses to make non-economic decision or non-economic investment. So next, strategic policy. Strategic trade policy. It is based on assumption that government can help domestic producers to capture profits from foreign competitors. implies government support for industries important to the future economic growth, strategic industries, like airplane, automobile, ICT. It assumes imperfect competition in which trading industries are dominated by a few large companies. Example, aircraft industry with Boeing versus Airbus. Advocates argue that free trade theory based on an assumption of perfect competition is flawed because we're not really seeing in reality, really perfect competition as assumed by the free trade theory. So, what is strategic policy? We can look at here from the payoff matrix. Without EU subsidies, this is without subsidies. This is Boeing, Airbus, without subsidy. Boeing, Airbus with European subsidy. This is Boeing produces or does not produce. Airbus produces and does not produce, and the same thing over here. So without EU subsidies, results are unclear whether to produce or not to produce. With subsidy, produce is a dominant strategy for Airbus. Airbus produce because 5 is better than 0. Produces for Airbus is better than not producing. 5 is better than 0. And 110, yeah, I forgot to mention, if there is 10 million subsidies. So 110 is better than 0. So as a result, Boeing is forced into not producing because not producing 0 is better than losing $5 million. So strategic trade policies. And let me go to the critics of strategic trade policies. One is special interest groups may dictate who will receive government support. There are special interest groups that will be doing lobbying to make sure that their industries will get this government support. So, and second one is going to be worldwide retaliation and counter-retaliation. Counter-retaliate. So, and third, governments lack information to intervene intelligently in the market. How do you know? So, the market is not lack of information to intervene. Next, or the last one, is economic sanction. Yes. Definition: trade restrictions used for domestic or foreign policy objectives, whether economic policy or foreign policy, political foreign policies. Trade sanction comes to boycott of export to that country, by that country. So sanction on that country is prohibiting that country to export, and also other countries to trade with that country. So third, financial sanction limit aid or loans. Whether it is effective or not, it depends on the number of nations imposing sanctions. If the number of nations are many, yes, effective. Degree of economic ties to imposing nation. If there is economic ties, so it will be effective. Because if there are huge amount of trade between the two countries, yes, it will be effective. If there is not much to begin with, trading or economic exchanges between the two countries, no, it's not worth doing it. So degree of economic ties, yes, the higher degree of economic ties, the more effective the sanction. Number three, extent of political opposition in the target country. Yes, if there is higher political activities in political opposition in that country, will be more effective. Cultural factors in the target nation. If there are cultural factors like owing to similar cultures of people there, so some people who are having the same cultures will support the sanction. Some people who are having the similar culture with the imposing nation, people in that country will support the sanction, so it will be more effective. Let's go back to the latest edition. So these are the example: protect domestic economy, reduce nuclear proliferation, set compensation, and so on. Yeah, let's look at what happened in the graph. This is, for example, of Iraq, sanction on Iraq. Before the sanction, this is after the sanction, will make Iraq will be operating within the production possibility frontier within, or even will reduce if the sanction will make the country's economy smaller, you will even reduce the production possibility frontier. Okay. Anything else? Check. Yeah, I'm not going to go over. That's it. So, in conclusion, we have gone through the industrial policy of the industrial countries, especially United States. We look at the impact of loan guarantee, seemingly nice, but there are cost to society. And we looked at the pair of metrics for the strategic industrial policies, arguing for strategic trade policies in order to capture benefits from other countries. Okay, and then we'll look at the sanction, when it works and when it doesn't work. So thank you for watching. Any question, please ask in the comment, and please subscribe to my YouTube, Mohd Shukri Hajinoor. Thank you very much from UKM, the National University of Malaysia. Thank you. Assalamualaikum.